So transmission we decided to do is 42LE. It's out of a 2002 300M, but it would work in any LH car, Concorde, LHS, 300M, Intrepid. Basically, it's a very unique setup compared to most front-wheel drive cars. It's a longitudinally mounted transmission, so the engine is sitting like any normal rear-wheel drive would sit, except it's front-wheel drive. So two shafts come out on each side of the transmission to the wheels instead of having it sideways or laterally mounted, as most front-wheel drives in America are. The reason Chrysler decided to use the longitudinally mounted engine and transmission is because they wanted space savings. They had a cab forward design when they designed the Intrepid, so they wanted a short hood and a low stance in the front, which ultimately gives you better fuel mileage, a better looking car, and basically with the cab forward design, it keeps all the wheels closer to the corners. It's basically more of a design standpoint than anything else. Okay, so here's the transmission case. This is an empty case. All the hard parts have been organized on the bench to where it would be this way inside of the transmission. So you have your torque converter at the front, and then this is the transmission pump. This is the stub shaft coming from the differential. It goes behind the torque converter, which is very abnormal compared to any normal transmission. From the transmission pump, we go to the input clutch assembly, which is connected to the input shaft and both the planetaries. This is where everything, all the magic happens when it comes to switching gears and different ratios and everything inside of the transmission. This is where all that happens. And from the output shaft, you have this gear connected, which transfers all the force through the chain to the transfer shaft gear. Transfer shaft gear is connected to the pinion shaft, which, as you can see, it's just like any normal axle. And the transfer shaft, or the transfer gear, would be connected right here. The pinion shaft, as any differential, is connected to the ring gear, which is just like any open differential, and it has a stub shaft here and a stub shaft that goes inside of here. And that's what's connected to the CV shafts, which in turn turn the wheels. Mechanical power flow on a 42LE starts at the flywheel, which is bolted to the front of the torque converter. The torque converter has three main parts internal to it: the turbine, the stator, and the impeller. The impeller is at the front of the torque converter, and it's basically spinning at engine RPM. And the stator is a stationary member of the torque converter that is held stationary by the reaction shaft, which is internal to the pump on the LH cars. And basically the stator's job is to redirect the fluid from the impeller to spin the turbine. The turbine spins the input shaft and in turn spins all of these. This is the input shaft clutch assembly disassembled so that you can see each of the gears. This is the underdrive clutch, this is the overdrive clutch, this is the reverse clutch, and this is the 2/4 and low reverse. These two are the holding gears for the transmission, and these two are the driven gears. So basically, two of these have to be applied all the time in order to get an output that would work for a gear. For first gear, the underdrive and the low reverse clutch are applied. So the low reverse clutch is holding, and the underdrive clutch is spinning, and this will give you a 2.84 to 1 gear ratio from the input shaft to the output shaft. And I'll demonstrate this now. You'll see this will spin much faster than this does because of the reduction. So this will be spinning 2.84 times slower than this gear when it's spinning. For second gear, the underdrive and the 2/4 clutch are applied. So it's still the same driven gear, but a different holding clutch, and this will yield a 1.57 to 1 ratio. And it'll still obviously be faster here than here, but it'll be a little closer. And I'll demonstrate that now by holding the 2/4. And as you can see, the output shaft is still spinning slower than the underdrive or input shaft. For third gear, the underdrive and overdrive are both applied, causing the whole thing to spin at once because they are both driven gears. And this would be 1-to-1, and this is demonstrated here. And fourth gear, the overdrive clutch is applied along with the 2/4 clutch. and this will be causing a 0.69 to 1 ratio, so this will actually be spinning faster than the driven gear or the input shaft. And for reverse, which is the last gear, the reverse clutch is applied along with the low reverse clutch. So this will cause this to spin in the opposite direction as the input shaft. And that's the mechanical power flow through the input clutch assembly. So before you take the differential cover off, you want to take the preload out of the bearing so it doesn't crack the differential cover when you're actually taking it off. In order to do that, there's a little tooth that holds the outer adjuster for the preload. It holds it in place so it can't move. So you take this tooth off, and then you'll take your special tool and put it into the outer adjuster, and then you just go ahead and loosen it. And now there's no preload on the bearing, so you can safely take the differential cover off without cracking any of the ears or any of the aluminum case on it. So in order to adjust the bearing preload on this, what we have to do is turn the torque wrench until it's at 19 to 20 inch-pounds of torque. And in order to adjust it, you take this spline and you tighten this outer adjuster, and you mark down the torque when the torque wrench over there gets to 19 to 20 inch-pounds. So I'll demonstrate that now. As he's turning it, you'll see me tightening this until he tells me to stop, and that means that we got the correct turning torque.
About 14, only a little bit more. Stop.
So I got about 60 foot-pounds on this torque wrench, and that gets us the correct turning torque on that torque wrench.
Just about 14 right now.